Time is so ordinary that we rarely question it. It moves forward, it ticks, it ages us, it measures us. It tells us when to wake, when to work, when to rest, and when we are running out. We build our lives around it so completely that it feels natural, inevitable, unquestionable. But the most powerful systems are always the ones that feel invisible. If Saturn is the symbol of the cage, then time is the bars. In the first part of this series, we explored Saturn as an archetype of restriction, a force associated with law, structure, boundaries, and containment, a system that shapes reality into boxes, rules, hierarchies, and consequences. We looked at the cube as a symbol of that system, a perfect geometric prison that appears again and again across religion, architecture, and modern life. But the cube does not exist on its own. It is powered by something. And that something is time. Saturn has always been linked to time, not in a poetic sense, but in a deep mythological and psychological one. In Roman mythology, Saturn is the god of agriculture and cycles, the harvest that cuts and gathers. In Greek mythology, he appears as Cronus, the devourer of his own children, time that consumes what it creates, time that gives life and then takes it back. That image alone should stop you for a moment. A god who eats his children because he fears being overthrown. A god who cannot allow the future to exist freely. A god who must control what comes next by swallowing it whole. This is not a gentle image of time. This is not a neutral clock. This is time as domination. In astrology, Saturn governs limitation, karma, discipline, authority, aging, and death. Saturn is the planet people fear when it appears in charts. Saturn returns are associated with hardship, endings, responsibility, and reckoning. Even people who do not believe in astrology feel the emotional weight of Saturn as a symbol. Saturn is the stern father, the strict teacher, the voice that says you must earn your worth. You must suffer to deserve rest. You must obey to be safe. And here is where the story deepens. If Saturn represents time, and time governs decay, aging, and death, then time becomes the ultimate enforcement mechanism of the system. Because nothing controls behavior like the fear of running out. From the moment you are aware of yourself, time is already chasing you. You are taught that life is short, that youth fades, that bodies break down, that you must hurry, that you must be productive, that you must build something before it is too late, that you must secure yourself against the future because the future is hostile. Time turns existence into a countdown, and when existence becomes a countdown, fear becomes rational. This is why Saturn is often associated with the phrase, the god of this world. Not because Saturn is literally a planet ruling reality, but because the system that governs this world operates through time, through scarcity, through limitation, through the idea that you are finite, fragile, and always on the brink of loss. If you believe you are running out, you can be controlled. You will accept rules you would otherwise reject. You will tolerate conditions that shrink you. You will sacrifice joy for security. You will trade freedom for safety. You will accept cages if they promise survival. Time makes the cube effective. The cube without time is just a shape. Time turns it into a prison. And this is where theology enters the story, not as doctrine but as symbol. In Christian scripture, there is a phrase that has puzzled people for centuries. Jesus refers to the ruler of this world. Paul speaks of powers and principalities. There is language that suggests that something governs this realm that is not God in the ultimate sense, but still holds authority here. What is that authority? It is not love. Love does not threaten with expiration. It does not say you have only this long to matter. It does not age you into obedience. It does not punish you with decay. The authority of this world operates through fear, and fear needs time. This is why death sits at the center of control. From childhood, death is presented as the ultimate threat. Even when it is not spoken about, it is implied. You must behave or else. You must conform or else. You must believe or else. You must succeed or else. Or else what? Or else you will suffer. Or else you will be abandoned. Or else you will be forgotten. Or else you will die. The entire system rests on the assumption that death is final, terrifying, and absolute. And if death is absolute, then time is sacred. And if time is sacred, then Saturn reigns. This is why Saturnian systems are obsessed with measurement, timesheets, deadlines, calendars, ages, retirement, productivity metrics, lifespans. Even spiritual progress gets measured. how holy you are, how disciplined, how obedient, how pure. Everything becomes quantified. The cube loves numbers. And here is where the story takes a turn that conspiracy theories often circle but rarely articulate clearly. If Saturn is the ruler of time, then anything that breaks the power of time breaks Saturn's authority. That is why the Christian story does not center on law. It centers on death. More specifically, on death being defeated. The crucifixion of Jesus is often explained as a payment for sin, a sacrifice required by divine justice, a transaction to satisfy a cosmic debt. But that explanation, while familiar, barely scratches the surface of what the story is doing symbolically. Because the real question is not why Jesus died. The real question is why death did not keep him. If the system of this world is powered by time and enforced by death, then resurrection is not just a miracle. It is a jailbreak. It is the collapse of the system from the inside. In the Saturn Cube Theory, the cube represents the material prison, the realm of form, law, limitation, and decay. The place where spirit is boxed into flesh and governed by time. The place where you are born, grow old, and die, repeating the cycle endlessly. And here is where geometry becomes theology. When you unfold a cube, when you open it fully and lay it flat, what appears is a cross, not a distorted shape, not an approximation, a perfect cross. The top and bottom align, the sides extend equally. The center holds everything together. The cube does not break into chaos. It reveals a structure that was hidden inside it the entire time. The cross is not imposed on the cube. It is revealed from within it. This is the key insight that changes everything. The cross is not an instrument of punishment in this symbolic reading. It is an unlocking mechanism. It is what happens when the prison opens. The cube represents closed reality, contained reality, time-bound reality. The cross represents opened reality, extended reality, reality that touches beyond itself. When Jesus dies on the cross, he does not submit to the system. He exposes it. He enters death fully. He accepts the worst the system can offer. He allows time to do its work on him. He is betrayed, tortured, humiliated, executed. Everything Saturn represents is brought to bear. Law condemns him, authority executes him, time kills him, and then the system fails. Death does not hold him. Time does not contain him. The cube opens. This is why early Christianity was so dangerous, not because it broke laws, but because it broke fear. People who believed death had been defeated could not be controlled in the same way. Martyrdom was not terrifying if death was not final. Obedience lost its leverage if time had lost its threat. The resurrection is not about escaping punishment. It is about escaping the prison of time. This is why Paul says that the last enemy to be destroyed is death. Not sin, not law, death, because death is the enforcement arm of the Saturnian system. Without death, the system collapses. And this is why the cross is such a powerful and unsettling symbol. It is not neat. It is not symmetrical in the way cubes are. It extends outward. It disrupts enclosure. It reaches up and out and across. The vertical beam represents the breaking of the heaven-earth divide. The horizontal beam represents the breaking of separation between people. The center represents the meeting point where time and eternity intersect. The cross is not about suffering being holy. It is about suffering losing its power. This is why the resurrection story matters more than the crucifixion itself. The crucifixion shows the system doing what it always does. The resurrection shows the system failing. If Saturn represents time, then resurrection represents eternity breaking into time, not someday, not later, now. This reframes everything. Salvation is not about escaping hell after death. It is about escaping the fear of death now. It is about living as though time no longer owns you. It is about refusing to let decay define meaning. When Jesus says the kingdom of God is at hand, he is not talking about a distant afterlife. He is talking about a reality that operates by different rules, a reality where forgiveness precedes punishment, where worth is not earned, where love is not rationed, where life is not measured by productivity. These are anti-Saturn principles. This is why grace is so dangerous to systems of control. Grace cannot be timed, it cannot be earned, it cannot be delayed or revoked, it does not age, it does not expire. Grace collapses the cube. And this is also why so much of institutional religion quietly reintroduced Saturn through the back door. By turning faith back into law, by turning grace into conditional approval, by turning eternity back into a reward that must be earned over time. When religion becomes obsessed with rules, punishment, hierarchy, and fear, it aligns itself with Saturn again, not with Christ. This is the great irony at the heart of the story. The cross breaks the cube, but the cube keeps trying to rebuild itself, through guilt, through shame, through fear of judgment, through constant self-surveillance, through the idea that you are never enough. These are time-based tools. You must improve, you must progress, you must purify yourself gradually. You must fix yourself before you are acceptable. But resurrection says something else entirely. It says you are free before you are finished. It says time does not define your worth. It says death is not the final authority. This is why Saturn Cube theories resonate so deeply right now. People feel trapped, not just physically, but existentially. They feel time draining them. They feel life speeding up and meaning thinning out. They feel like they are constantly running and never arriving. The cube feels real because time feels cruel, and the cross feels powerful because it represents an exit. Not an escape from the world, but an escape from the system that shrinks the world. If Saturn is the god of this world, then Christ is the interruption. Not a new ruler within the same system, but the end of the system's power. This does not mean time disappears. It means time loses its teeth. Aging still happens, bodies still change, death still comes, but fear no longer rules. You can live fully without bargaining with the clock. You can love without calculating loss. You can rest without earning it. You can exist without justification. That is freedom. And freedom is what systems of control fear most. So when people say the cross opens the cube, they are not making a geometric joke. They are pointing to something profound, something ancient, something dangerous to power. They are saying that the prison was never as solid as it looked, that the bars were made of fear, that time was a tool, not a truth, and that the door has always been there, waiting to be opened. The cube unfolds, the cross appears, and time loses its throne. That is the story, not as threat, but as an invitation to live as though eternity has already begun.